This is Email, and I'm bothered, I'm upset, and we need to do something. These executive orders is outrageous. We need to go ahead and figure out where the shredder is at. So we ain't got the Ninja Turtles. We ain't got the FBI. We don't have the CIA. We don't have none of those 3 or 4 letters. All we have is a bird watcher and a person who wants change to happen. If you like change, help for democracy, come join, keep watch. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Whatever time it is, I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to be going over the executive orders for April, the month of April. This is it has a slew of them, and two executive orders that we're going to be really focused on today will be 14277, which is AI in schools, and then 14288, which is unleashing police powers, basically over policing. Just a few things that we must go over before is if you are interested in speaking on these kind of topics and you like to join, remember June 14, 2025, there will be no King's Day. This is going to be a worldwide, and I repeat, a worldwide protest. So there is most likely going to be a place near you, even if you are in Idaho or Iowa or any place in the world, like a small place in Texas. Interesting. You could be a part of the change. Remember, the more people that come together, the more people have to respect. When ants come together, even humans have to respect fire ants. All right. So just a little bit of information about indivisible protest. We're going to be looking at the events that they have coming up. Also, Resistance Lab with Pramila. We're going to be talking about her upcoming event that she's having in the beginning of June, as well as, you know me, I'm always telling Tesla to drop Elon or whatever else. So that, again, we're going to be going over that. So, but before we go over that, we're going to be going over the whole April executive orders. And then from there, we are going to be looking at different protests. And then we're going to be going into 14277 and then 14288. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get our deep dive into executive orders of April from Donald Trump in 2025. Okay, so Executive Order 14257, regulating imports with reciprocal tariff to recertify trade practices that contribute to large and persistent annual United States goods trade deficits. And this was really not important to me. That was more of him kind of saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't go to tariff. I don't want to tariff every my friends. Let me not tariff all my friends. That's kind of like one way you can look at that. I don't know how you can look at that. If you have a better idea on how to look at him kind of with that kind of, let me read that again. Regulating imports with a reciprocal tariff to recertify trade practices that contribute to large and persistent annual United States goods trade deficits. So he's basically trying to counteract or balance some kind of trade deficit that he feels that we have been wronged, and some of the reciprocal tariffs is definitely inaccurate, because I mean, if we don't grow something, how can we trade on the same level? If you know better, let me know. I feel like that right there is important, but for the sake of the fact that we have so many important things that are more important than that, we're going to put that for an end. Executive Order 14256, further an amendment to duties addressing the synthetic opioid supply chain in the People's Republic of China as applied to low value imports. This again is a non-important thing, because the reason why I feel like it's not important is because this is very unstrategic, not intelligent way of going at someone who's technically bigger than you. This is essentially going up, animal going up to an elephant. China is big. It's been here for, what your man say, 5,000 years. That's kind of like what he was saying. All right, so President Chen, the president for China. Let's move on. Executive Order 14258, extending the TikTok enforcement delay. So this is something that I felt was not important, just because there's so many more important things that he is doing that is really detrimental to Americans' health over even China's not even messing with us as hard. And I really don't think that after this, I feel like people are going to realize that the enemy within it will always be bigger than the enemy from outside. All right. So Executive Order 14262, strengthening the reliability and security of the United States electric grid. This is important. And the reason why it's important is because of when incidents like in Texas, where the ice basically froze the electrical grid, it essentially made it so that a lot of houses lost their value because the roofs fell in due to what kind of infrastructure not settling for the heat, the fact that there's no air conditioning going on, the power grids went out just because of that. I mean, not air conditioning at that time, but people were froze to death for the power grid. So we might need that, so that way when and just to do reciprocal. I guess we did with Canada, but just because we start the war with them, if we ever were to decide to become isolationists in a real sense, we'll have to have our own power grid. The problem with that is the fact that we have these very greedy-minded politicians who wish to really control things. If you have them who are just greedy, it don't matter. It might, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Executive Order 261, again 14261. It will be American clean coal industry executive 14241. This is very important, and it is important for any about and also the concept that a lot of young people who decide to get in these dangerous fields, which if you listen to the language of mandate, people more dangerous fields and more dangerous fields, and I will get susceptible thing called black lungs. Black lung cancer is a wrap for you. People are dying at a very young age because in the age of 18. So they see dollars saying that, hey, work for my $30 hour. They're at two, really at the age of poverty at $35. But what I'm saying is, some doesn't know, but The people know better. It's supposed to guard the people who don't know better. This is why it's regulations. Let's move on to the next. Executive Order 14260, protecting American energy from state overreach. Okay, so this was a non-important thing because, again, we're only calling the things that are really, really impacting us important or very important, just because there's so many important things. If we were to do it, we'll read up the whole book, and therefore you might as well go over the book as a deep, deep, deep dive. And that is something that we may do future tense. Like if I was to have some students that would like to learn more about the executive orders in the future, at that point, then I will be more willing to go and deep dive to everyone. But for right now, we're going to try to make it so that we have 30% of it being very important or at most. So let's go ahead and talk about the protecting American energy from state overreach. That's not important. I just feel like he's trying to control everything again, and then it's like states should have more power than the executive when it comes to state business, but the executive should have a lot of power, but not to oversee the mayors and governors of that state. All right, Executive Order 14259, amendment to reciprocal tariffs and updated duties as applied to low value imports from the People's Republic of China. This is important. It wasn't considered very important, and it's only considered important because it's like, why are we trying to bully all the countries with no tax? That just makes no sense. So let's get to the next one. Executive Order 14270, zero-based regulatory budgeting to unleash American energy. This is not important, but one thing that you notice is we've seen about 3 or 4 executive orders concerning energy. So it's something about the energy that President Trump is considering to be kind of faulty. So really, truly, if Tesla was not doing the way they were doing, a lot of his kind of working would be the stuff we need. And because especially since we're not quote unquote trying to have China come here, but honestly, I don't really, I'd rather not get into beef with China because I don't understand it. I guess it's beyond me why we going against them so hard. Considering that that should not be a sign of our failure, and I feel like that's kind of like what's happening. I feel that right now we're, in a sense, we're looking at the Chinese republic, and we're looking at them as, if they're successful, we're doing bad, and then we're looking at it like, as long as we win, it doesn't, as long as we win. And it shouldn't be that way, because like, so what if you win if the final product that you won is not worth it anymore? It's best just to, that's just something that we need to think about when it comes down to the final product. Is me being right worth more than it being done correctly? And that right there will help us when it comes down to a lot of the arguments. Let's go to the next. So the next one will be Executive Order 14270, zero-based regulatory budgeting to unleash American energy. We already said that was not important, and it would tie into a lot of things. Executive Order 14269, restoring America's maritime dominance. So this, I feel like maybe a lot of the Navy boys will really enjoy, especially the Coast Guard. I guess they just, to me, that's really the main dominant thing. But essentially, this is him, the biggest Navy fleet out. That's what I'm essentially hearing, and that's important because when it comes down to the pirates, like the pirates, or just really just a lot of other bad doers that are out there, the if you really think about it, you know, this is on land. On land, there's most times in land, especially if it's land that we've all went through, there's always some kind of human that is claiming some part of the land that's livable. That's one thing. And then when you talk about the water, technically speaking, yeah, you can kind of say you got to say on the water, but do you really? Just saying. All right, let's talk about the next one. Executive Order 1468, reforming foreign defense sales to improve speed and accountability. This is not seen as important, although I know that if we were more in the arms sales, then this would be something that we will probably feel that is very important to us. Let's go to the next executive order, 14267, reducing anti-competitive regulatory barriers. And I'm saying this is not important, at least for us. Again, anti-competitive regulatory barriers. So I think that this might be important because this might be like a monopoly. So give me 2 seconds to figure something out. Because if that is a monopoly, at that point, it would be. Okay, so yeah, so I'm gonna change this one. I don't have any more notes on it. So because it is, I'm gonna put a V on it and I'm gonna have to say come back to me. And the reason why is because I didn't realize it when I was reading it. Then originally was this can really create a monopoly. So the reason why we have a lot of anti-competitive regulatory barriers is to ensure that blockbustering and just really shady trade deals and just silly things don't happen. Because if it's five businesses that all do the same thing, it's only five businesses and all five of them are together, and then there's another business who come, and what they can do, they can essentially do things to eliminate that one business able to come in. You know, silly stuff like that happens. So I just feel like, you know, that is important, but that's very important. But hey, at the same time, we got to come back to that one. Executive Order 14266, modifying reciprocal tariff rates to reflect trading partner retaliation in alignment. This was not seen as important. Again, he keeps talking about the reciprocal tariffs, and we all know that that's not the real agenda. Executive Order 14265, modernizing defense acquisitions and spurring innovation in the defense industrial base. I said that was important. It wasn't very important because it's important because we have to know what they're doing as far as defenses and the innovations that they are doing with our armies. At the same time, it's not important because it's not very important because it's not stopping anyone from eating. It's just important to know what modernization defense strategies that the executive would like to happen. The executive order 14264, maintaining acceptable water pressure in shower heads. Not important. Who cares about this man's shower head, bro? Oh man. So executive order 14264, maintaining acceptable water pressure in shower heads. Is he Mario or something? All right. Let's move to the next. That's very not important. Executive order 14263, addressing risk from Sussman Godfrey. And I'm saying it's not important, but it is very important because it is targeting somebody, but it's not important for the American people for our executive to write this. but it's very important that we stop him from abusing that kind of power to single out anybody. Executive Order 14275, restoring common sense to federal procurement. This is important because what they have been trying to do is they're trying to bottleneck a lot of the resources that departments can get as far as the procurement that they're talking about. With this executive order, they are essentially giving this to one department. I'm not sure the name of the department they're giving to. I do recall seeing it. And what this means is, even if you like, let's say there's 6 departments and all 6 departments have to go to this one department for, like, let's say something similar like toner, ink toner, just office supplies, office computers, office technology, even the tech, even the IT will have to go through them too, as far as them procuring federal resources. So that's very important. But for us, we're going to say it's just important. All right. Executive Order 14274. It'll be very important if we were federal workers. Okay. 14274. Restoring common sense to federal office space management. This was seen as not important. In a sense, if you are working for the Fed, it is very important. But if you don't work for a Fed, it's not important. At the same time, I do not know why he feels like common sense should be the thing, because science a lot of times will defy common sense, and then because common sense will tell me the world is flat based on certain principles happening, and after that, these premises happen, therefore the world is flat, and I don't care. That is what. And that's kind of like, that's common sense. Like, common sense will give us those kind of theories, and everyone will believe you as soon as you do this. Say, if it wasn't flat, then how come this doesn't glide? How come this is not in midair? Yeah, we're flat, and then that's it. That's common sense. So if it's not common sense that the world is not flat, it's more like a egg shape, if anything, an oval shape. And at that point, then common sense need to go out the window, and we need to be more protective and actually have science backing up whatever we're doing. So again, that's very important if you're Fed workers, but since we're not, that's not important to us. Executive Order 14273, lowering drug prices by once again putting Americans first. This is very important, and we know it's very important because we want to be more like Canada, we want to be more like Europe, and have that healthcare real beautiful. Executive Order 272, ensuring national security and economic resilience through Section 232 actions on process critical minerals and derivative products. This was seen as important. It wasn't seen as very important, just because it's not like it's stopping anyone from eating, but at the same time, whenever you're procuring critical mineral goods and derivatives is very important, because maybe we can start having those warehouses if we're able to extract what we need to extract, instead of always going to China. And then at that point, maybe it makes sense, after actually being self-sufficient, then you can go ahead and challenge the panda. But until you become self-sufficient, leave the dragon alone, because the panda, you wake up the panda, then the dragon will show up. I'm telling you. I'm just saying, they're willing to go to war more than we are. All right, Executive Order 14271, ensuring commercial cost-effective solutions in federal contracts. This is seen as not important to the majority of us. If you are a federal contractor, this will be considered very important. And again, it's saying ensuring commercial cost-effective solutions in government contracts. So what that sounds like to me is that they're going to make it a point to try to bid lower, and then when you are a friend, we're going to bid higher. So you got to be part of the in crowd. If you're not part of the in crowd, who are you? Who's this guy? Executive Order 14276, restoring American seafood competitiveness. This was seen as not important. And the reason why it's seen as not important is because restoring American seafood competitiveness. Listen, you are a man. You're not every fisherman. These fishermen been trying to fish already. So you just writing it's like a wish list. It's like a person thinking that there's a genie behind and everything that they write, they want it to happen. And it's not the real common sense that these people here, they're being competitive. How, so it's not that, it's not important. Executive Order 14283, White House initiative to promote excellence in innovation at historically Black colleges and universities. This is important. At the same time, it's not very important. Honestly, it's not even important to the majority of the people in the world. Actually, I would say that this is really not important, but a little bit of my bias made it that it's important. If you are African American, then this is important. At the same time, if you're firing a bunch of Black people working for your place and there's no real, you're trying to get rid of DEI, if you just like, if you have all these executive orders going against something and then you have one executive order countering it, it doesn't make a difference. You didn't neutralize, it's still negative. So just because of that, that's the reason I'm saying like that executive order is silly to me. So executive order 14282, transparency regarding foreign influence at American universities. So this is important and is not very important. Harvard right now is going through it, and Harvard is trying to defend their ability to allow foreign students to be accepted into their university. Howard, I have to commend them. I appreciate Harvard so much because Harvard is the oldest school, and they did not bend the knee like a lot of other colleges did. And I'm not mad at the colleges that did. At the same time, somebody has to stand up to this, because if they didn't stand up to it, there's no end. At that point, now you have the once you get those figureheads, those real loyalists in those ranks, there's no getting them out, and they're going to sabotage everything. Harvard will not be the great powerhouse it'll be a real control mechanism, and that's all it is about. All right, so let's get to the next one. Executive Order 14281, and this one is restoring equality of opportunity in meritocracy. So merit based. So they're basically saying that they're trying to make it equal opportunity and base it on merit. And I'm saying that this is very important, but to write this down and why you get rid of DEI and thinking that it is somehow the end all, like people get jobs just because of DEI, all that means is they are now going to have to take a look at those candidates, which they would not. And there are a lot of intelligent people in the world that are not going to be able to be successful because of these. As soon as he got in, if you look at the executive branch, as far as the people that he has in these power positions, and then after you look at what Biden had and you look at what Obama had throughout all of the staff, you notice a real big thing. Trump is trying to bring back 1950s. He's trying to bring back that mentality. So let's get to the next one. Executive Order 14280. All right. So reinstating common sense school discipline policies. This is very important because right now you keep saying common sense. What is common sense? Let's go with what actually makes sense. What's common sense in your house is not common sense to others. If you were in my house, my mother's house, or depending on whatever, You will get a little whipping here and there, and then if you bring that to the school, then that's not common sense. You know, it's like capital punishments is cool, but it's not really like, I mean, I get like, I'm all for capital punishment as far as people getting their butt spanked in school. At the same time, when we talk about common sense, what are we talking about? So that's why it's very important, because that language, we need to figure out, what do you mean? All right, Executive Order 14279, reforming accreditation to strengthen higher education. This is important. All depends on how we're going to do it. Executive Order 14278, preparing Americans for high-paying skilled trade jobs of the future. This is important. It also depends on how you're planning on doing it. So that is important. I think that applies to the majority of the people in the world, because if you're not looking for work, you probably have kids that are looking for work. If you're not looking, if you don't have a job, you probably, because after a while you have to get one, regardless on, even if you're 2 years old, eventually you're gonna have a job. All right, Executive Order 14277, the one that we're going to be looking at today in deeper dive, advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth. Very important, and it is because it is a security issue that you work with whenever you deal with AI in education, as it seems like it's too easy for people to keep track of you. Executive Order 14285, unleashing America's offer for critical minerals and resources. This is important. This was actually one of the, this is the first executive order that we went over in week 1. So essentially, it is important, because the way we get the minerals and what we can do with them, how we get them, very important. So Executive Order 14285, script probationary periods in the federal service. It is not important. If you are a federal worker, then it's important to you, but for the rest of us, it's not important. It is important because I'll say that this is important because, in a sense, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that it is important. And the reason why it's important is because it is cleaning up the swamp, quote unquote, but at the same time, if you strengthen in probationary periods, that means that you're going to probably increase the time. Instead of even like a 2-year thing, you might make it probationary 3-year or so, whatever, however long it is. All right, so Executive Order 14288, another one that we're going to be going over, strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. This is very important. We're going to get to that one. I don't even want to think about that one until we actually get into that one. Executive Order 14287, Americans' immunities from criminal aliens. And this is not important. It is not important, not because what he's talking about is important, but it's not important because the quote unquote illegal aliens, the criminal aliens that he's talking about, they're not looting and robbing people. It's like Pigman's imagination is trying to criminalize them and make them enemies so that due process is not a thing. All right, Executive Order 14286, Executive Order 14286, enforcing common sense rules of the road for America's truck drivers. So this is not important just because the rules of the truckers, I'm pretty sure he's talking about weakening the regulations on them so that they can make more money. And if you're a truck driver, you love it. But as far as being a pedestrian, as far as being a road, someone who's sharing the road, a motorist who is not driving anything remotely close to 80,000 pounds, because you can drive with a CDL, you can drive up to like 79,999 pounds. And because of that, most people are driving around probably like 40,000 pounds or even 60,000, just being Without weight, you're driving probably like 15,000 pounds, or anywhere between 11 to 15,000 pounds. If you have a tractor trailer, but then you put that extra weight on it, you're at least driving 40,000 pounds when it's loaded. All right. So when you're doing that and you're dealing with these people who just want money, they're going to rig the books and they're going to drive 6 hours a day and sleep for 4. Why? Because family needs it. All right. Hang on. Executive Order 14289, addressing certain tariffs on imported articles. This is important, and I wish we didn't have to learn about, but we had to. So we're going to go over the things that are very important, just going over a little bit of why they're important. So Executive Order 14288, strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. This is very important. If led by administration indifferent to civil rights, this order could embolden aggressive policing tactics under the pretense of law and order, disproportionately targeting minority communities and political dissidents. By removing federal oversight and increasing militarization of police forces, it may erode civil liberties, suppress peaceful protests, and foster systemic abuse, all while shielding law enforcement accountability. The long-term result could be a chilling effect on free speech and a widening trust gap between the public and institutions meant to serve them. All right, let's talk about the next one. Executive Order 14277, advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth. Very important. While AI education is critical, under an administration focused on maximizing private sector gains, this initiative could prioritize corporate-aligned curricula over ethical, inclusive, or critical engagement with AI. Programs might be designed to serve tech industry labor needs rather than develop well-rounded citizens, leading to educational inequality and limited career mobility for non-elite students. If profit-driven motives dominate, students could be funneled into exploitative job pipelines without sufficient training in data privacy, algorithmic biases, or digital rights. All right. So let's go ahead, and the only reason I'm not looking at those two and talking more into them is because I have a case study with them. It's just that I went from most important to getting down. So the thing that was next seen as was very important was the Executive Order 14280, reinstating common sense school discipline policies. Very important. This order, under a profit or ideology driven administration, policies that disproportionately punish students of color, students with disabilities, and those from disadvantaged backgrounds. Labeling such discipline as common sense risks masking racially biased practices and undermining restorative approaches proven to reduce recidivism and dropout rates. It could deepen the school to prison pipeline and destabilize school climates, prioritizing order and punishment over understanding and rehabilitation. So this is one thing I like. That last sentence is something that we're going to highlight and make it just a little bit bigger, so that way we're even going to put make it red, because we really need to emphasize the fact that it could deepen the schools to prison pipeline in destabilized school climates. And we already know that special education is a pipeline to school to prison. That's what they've been using it. So we already have a bunch of pipelines from school to prison. But by doing this, we're going to strengthen it, where we're going to be having it more focused on essentially, we're going to have it more focused on punishing people and less about helping people. When the punishment is so severe, it's not really something that we should be doing. It's like severe punishments. It's like when we deal with kids, we need to be more understanding and then come from there. When we deal with adults, you do need to be understanding, but that's when you might want to be more stricter. But when we talk about schools, we need to go ahead and figure out how can we help this baby before this baby becomes a hardened criminal. Executive Order 14273, lowering drug prices by once again putting Americans first. This is very important. Why? Although framed as consumer friendly, this order could allow pharmaceutical companies to consolidate control and cut regulatory corners under the guise of price reduction. An administration driven by corporate interests might use the policy to weaken safety standards, discourage drug price transparency, and marginalize smaller or foreign competitors, ultimately reducing quality and innovation. Patients could face limited treatment options, and public health could suffer as cost savings becomes a cover for profit protections. So whenever we're dealing with an administration that is business, you have to think about cost cutting, and you have to think about what the bottom line is as far as who's the getting benefit. When you think about a government entity that looks out for its people, you don't think about an entity that's just looking to profit. So again, this is very threatening if you misuse. So let's talk about the last one that was considered very important. Executive Order 14261, reinvigorating America's beautiful clean coal industry and amending Executive Order 14241. So he basically just, okay. All right. Reviving the coal industry under a misleading clean label ignores the environmental and public health costs of fossil fuel extraction and combustion. An administration prioritizing corporate energy interests could reverse decades of climate progress, suppress investment in renewables, and mislead communities into relying on unsustainable jobs. Air and water pollution, land degradations, and carbon emissions could rise sharply, disproportionately affecting low-income and rural populations while serving the short-term interests of powerful energy lobbyists. Yeah, so when we talk about it, there's a bunch of lobbyists that are getting paid, and by them labeling it clean does not mean that the coal is clean. But the only thing that kind of is a shame that it's a lot of Americans that look at that clean and be like, well, coal is clean because someone said it's clean, as opposed to knowing their whole life that fossil fuel has been known as being dirty. So let's go ahead, and now we're done with the very important executive orders. We're going to be looking at the important orders, and it's going to be late. We're just going to be naming them. So the important orders that almost made them: Executive Order 14289, addressing certain tariffs of imported articles. 14285, unleashing America's offshore critical minerals and resources. Executive Order 14278, preparing Americans for high-paying skilled trade jobs of the future. Executive Order 14279, reforming accreditation to strengthen higher education. Executive Order 14282, transparency regarding foreign influence at Americans' universities. Executive Order 14283, White House initiative to promote excellence and innovation at historically colleges and universities. All right. So Executive Order 14272, ensuring national security and economic resilience through Section 22 actions on process critical minerals, derivatives, products. Executive Order 14275, restoring to federal procurement. Executive Order 14265, modernizing defense acquisition and spurring innovation in the defense industrial base. Executive Order 14269, restoring America's maritime dominance. Executive Order 14259, amendment to reciprocal tariffs and updated duties and as applied to low value imports from the People's Republic of China. And the last one that was seen as important, Executive Order 14262, strengthening the reliability and security of U.S. electrical grid. So one thing that I have to take note on is 14283, White House initiative to promote excellence innovation at historical Black colleges and universities. I think about the concept of I think Godfather said, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. By them doing that is not necessarily because they're looking out for people's best interests. They're doing it probably because they want to keep an eye out on who they feel that are threats. So before we jump into the case studies, 14267, 14277 and 14288, we're going to first look into, if you're mad, what can you do? I don't think we do is write letters based on executive orders. So if you have any kind of chat box that you have, you can go and create one. If you don't, we'll be those at where, if you look, you're going to be resources. And by giving you resources, let me go ahead and share the tab. So as you know, for anybody who has already been around for a while, you know that the Google Drive is available. So with the case studies, we're starting to do letters with the case studies. And with these letters, the goal with these letters is to allow you to be able to just play. So with this letter, it's tailored for you, and you just put this information in, write whatever honorable person you'd like to write, and then it actually will address the problems with both of the executive orders that we're going to be getting. So is one way so outside of addressing it that way, other way that we can address it, which again, first one we're going to look at is Resistance Lab. This is by Pramila Jayapal, who is a Washington congresswoman. Has points to give everyone. If you were to have time, it will be best for you to come to her website and sign up. Sign up is very easy. And she's already had 2 workshops, and it seems to be that she's doing it at the beginning of the month. So I'm not exactly sure what day this is at. It's June 1st. So June 1st is typically this Sunday. So if you go ahead and sign up for Resistance Lab, which will be taking place June 1st virtually. And there are plenty places and positions and plenty of people that are like you, who are fed up with what's going on, would like to figure out what they can do. And again, my recommendation is to join this June 1st, and the sign up is easy. Soon as you sign up, they will then be able to give you more information on different kind of movements that you can take place. So when they say 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is Pacific time. So if you're Eastern, it's a 3-hour difference. So if you're Eastern, 12, 1, 2, it'll be like 2 p.m., I believe, 2 to 4 p.m. Stuff of that nature. So that is one thing that, you really got to pay attention. Outside that, I recommend you just checking out Miss Pramila and just see what she has to offer, because she's very intelligent. She stands for something, and she really stands for something, right? And having a senator or a congressperson who stands for something nowadays is very rare, especially if she was Republican, but she's not Republican, but if she was, even more. All right, so another way that we can combat this, what I have been doing every Saturday, besides the following 2 Saturdays, because I have family business to take care of. We all have family, and my family just happens to live in a different state. So because I had to move around so much, I was not able to show up. This Saturday, I will be at my nurse test, which is in Atlanta. So that's where I'm gonna be. If you were interested in taking down Tesla, taking down Elon Musk, because yeah, he's out of our government directly, but the partner. So with that being said, it's better to stay on that neck. So if you see that, if you want to connect with Tesla Takedown, they have a Blue Sky Instagram, and then they also have literature for your right. If you want to find a protest near you, again, you can come click that button right there to find the protest, and then when you're here, you can identify where the protests are close by you. Mind you, that a lot of places might not be advertising that they're protesting, but a lot of places are still protesting. That is one thing I did notice. So if you notice, this is not just USA. This is also taking place in parts of Europe. Let's see where else is taking place. So yeah, right now the main places that Tesla takedowns are taking place is parts of the European United Kingdom, and also in America itself. So let's say that you are in Florida. All right. They have one Disney Tesla takedown. They have one Saturday, May 23rd, May 31st, 2025, and it's going to be at 12 p.m. Another one will be Austin. Everything must go. Elon Musk, and is basically saying he has to go. This is in Austin, Texas. There's a bunch of places. So if any of these locations are next to you, they even have one in Canada, a few in Canada, like a couple of them in Canada, not that many, but there are a couple of them in Canada. So if you like to get active, that's one way you can get active. Another way you can get active, which is what I recommend, is joining with Indivisible. They are another way you can get active. As you see here, they have different events happening during the day. As you see, it says Bridge Banner Barricade I-20. So that's going to happening at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Saturday, they're participating in their Tesla takedown. And then June 3rd, they have a IND COB de-escalation training with Tim Franzen. Then the next, which is happening tomorrow, nothing that's happening tomorrow will be Indivisible COB Week people. Wednesday, that's happening tomorrow. Progress pages, and book club. That's something to be interesting. June 2nd, that's at 6 p.m. Then another one happening tomorrow, which is a virtual training going to take place at 12 p.m., which is medics for the next protest. So this is a virtual training body who is a medic so that they can help out just in case. When I was protesting at the May Day, there was a couple people that did pass out. So those people out there really are helping out. All right. So that's all we're going to be looking at for the closest events that they do have. And then these are the virtual events you see. So they have some that are still working on the fan clean vehicle standards and invisible West Houston weekly meeting. So in theory, there's going to be a lot more virtual meetings. Why? Because virtual meetings are easier to go to. It doesn't require as much physical energy output or time to get there. So I recommend that if you are really interested in learning more about what's going on, because I know that I'm definitely going to start being more part of the loop in trying to be active with one of these like at least twice a week. So again, visit Indivisible so that way you can get plugged in to whatever city that you're in. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the first executive order. All right, and what we're going to be doing, we're going to be reading the executive order out. And then after we read it out, we're again going to proceed to go over the case study of the executive order. All right, so advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth. This executive order was written April 23rd, 2025. I'm not going to read the hear me and all that. Section 1 background. Artificial intelligence, AI, is rapidly transforming the modern world, driving innovation across industries, enhancing productivity, and reshaping the way we live and work. To ensure the U.S. remains a global leader in the technological revolution. We must provide our nation's youth with opportunities to cultivate the skills and understanding necessary to use and create the next generation of AI technology. By fostering AI competency, we will equip our students with the foundational knowledge and skills necessary to adapt to and thrive in an increasingly digital society. Early learning and exposure to AI concepts not only demystifies the powerful technology, but also sparks curiosity and creativity. Preparing students to become active and responsible participants in the workforce of the future in nurturing the next generation of American AI innovators to propel our nation to new heights of scientific and economic achievements. To achieve the vision, we must also invest in our educators and equip them with the knowledge to not only train students of AI, but also utilize AI to improve educational outcomes. Professional development programs focused on AI education will empower educators to confidently guide students through this complex and evolving field. Educators, industry leaders, and employers who rely on AI skilled workforce should partner to create educational programs that equip students with essential AI skills and competencies across all learning platforms. While AI education is kindergarten through 12th grade, K through 12, is critical, our nation must also make resources available for lifelong learners to develop new skills for changing workforce. By establishing a strong framework that integrates early student exposure with comprehensive teacher training and other resources for workforce development, we can ensure that every American has the opportunity to learn about AI from the earliest stages of their educational journey through post-secondary education, fostering a culture of innovation and critical thinking that will solidify our nation's leadership in the AI-driven future. Section 2, policy. It is the policy of the U.S. to promote AI literacy and proficiency among Americans by promoting the appropriate integration of AI into education, providing comprehensive AI training for educators, and fostering early exposure to AI concepts and technology to develop an AI-ready workforce in the next generation of American AI innovators. Section 3, definition. For the purpose of the order of artificial intelligence, or AI, has the meaning set forth in 1.5 U.S.C.9401 subsection 3. Section 4, establishing a artificial intelligence education task force. There is hereby established the White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence Task Force. What is the purpose of having a task force? I do not know. All right, we're going to get into it. B, the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy shall be the chair of the task force. The task force membership shall consist of the following members. 1, the Secretary of Agriculture. 2, the Secretary of Labor. 3, the Secretary of Energy. 4, the Secretary of Education. 5, the Director of National Science Foundation, NSF. 6, the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy. 7, the Special Advisor for AI and Crypto. 8, the Assistant to the President for Policy. And 9, the heads of the office, the heads of the other such executive departments and agencies in offices that the chair may designate or invite to participate. And D, the task force shall be responsible for implementing the policy stated in section 2 of this order and coordinate federal efforts in education in the action. So what it looked like is so agriculture, labor, energy, education, and okay. All right. So section 5, establishing the presidential artificial intelligence challenge. All right. A, within 90 days of the date of this order, the task force shall establish plans for presidential artificial intelligence challenge. And the agencies represented on the task force shall, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, implement the plans by holding the challenge no later than 12 months from the submission of the plan. The challenge shall encourage and highlight student and educator achievement in AI, promote wide geographic adoption of technological advancement, and foster collaboration between government and academia, philanthropy, and industry to address national challenges with AI solutions. B, the challenge shall feature multiple age categories, distant geographic regions for competition, and a variety of topical themes of competition to reflect the breadth of AI applications, encouraging interdisciplinary exploration. C, the task force, and as appropriate, in agencies represented on the task force shall collaborate with relevant agencies and private sector entities to provide technical expertise, resources, and promotional support for implementing the challenge, including through existing funding vehicles. Mm. That task force. Okay, we're gonna have to keep an eye on that task force, and then that competition. It seems like that challenge seems very interesting. Section six, improving education through AI. To provide resources for K through 12 AI education, agencies represented on the task force shall seek to establish public-private partnerships with leading AI industry organizations, academic institutions, nonprofit entities, and other organizations with expertise in AI and computer science education to collaboratively develop online resources focused on teaching K through 12 students foundational AI literacy in critical thinking skills. The task force shall promptly announce such public-private partnerships on a rolling basis as they are formed. The task force shall seek to utilize industry commitments and identify any federal funding mechanisms, including discretionary grants that can be used to provide resources for K through 12 AI education. To the extent practicable and as consistent with the applicable law, agencies shall prioritize funding for such purposes when it would further the aims of the program of which funding is available. Two, the task force shall work to ensure that the resources funded as described in subsection 1 of this section are ready for use in K through 12 instruction within 180 days following the task force's formal announcement of the first SLAT of public-private partnerships. B, within 90 days of the date of this order, the task force shall identify existing federal AI resources on which agencies may rely, such as the NSF and the Department of Agriculture, sponsored national AI resource institutes to support partnerships with state and local educational agencies to improve AI education. All right. C, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall issue guidance regarding the use of formula and discretionary grant funds to improve education outcomes using AI, including but not limited to AI-based high-quality instructional resources, high-impact tutoring, and college and career pathway explorations, advising and navigation. D, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall identify and implement ways to utilize existing research programs to assist state and local efforts to use AI for improved student achievement, attainment, and mobility. Section 7, enhancing training for educators on AI. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall take steps to prioritize the use of AI in discretionary grant programs for teacher training authorized by the Elementary and Secondary Act of 1965, Public Law 89, TAC 10, as amended in Title II of the Higher Education Act of 1965, Public Law 89, TAC 329, as amended, including 1, reducing time in intensive administrative tasks. 2, improving teacher training and evaluation. 3, providing professional development for all educators so they can integrate the fundamentals of AI into all subject areas. And 4, providing professional development in foundational computer science and AI, preparing educators to effectively teach AI in standalone computer science and other relevant courses. B, within 120 days of the date of this order, the director of NSF shall take steps to prioritize research on the use of AI in education. The director of NSF shall also utilize existing programs to create teacher training opportunities to help educators effectively create AI-based tools and modulates in classrooms. And then C, within 120 days of this date of this order, the Secretary of Agriculture shall take steps to prioritize research, extensions, and education on the use of AI in formal and non-formal education through 4-H in the cooperative extension program. Extension system. The Secretary of Agriculture shall also utilize existing programs to create teacher and educator training opportunities that help effectively integrate AI-based tools and modulates into classrooms in curriculum. Section 8, promoting registered apprenticeships. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Labor shall seek to increase participation in AI-related registered apprenticeships, including by 1, prioritizing the development and growth of registered apprenticeships in AI-related occupations. The Secretary of Labor shall establish specific goals for growing registered apprenticeships in AI-related occupations across industries. In 2, using apprenticeships intermediary contracts in allocating existing discretionary funds as appropriate and consistent with applicable law. To engage industry organizations and employers and facilitate the development of registered apprenticeships programs in AI-related occupations. In doing so, the Secretary of Labor shall support the creation of industry-developed program standards to be registered on a nationwide basis, enabling individual employers to adopt the standards without requiring individual registry. B, within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary shall encourage states and grantees to use funding provided under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, Public Law 113, TAC 128. As amended, the develop AI skills and support work-based learning opportunities utilize AI by 1, issuing guidance to state and local workforce development boards, encourages the WIA youth formula funds to help youth develop AI skills. 2, clarify the states can use governor set asides to integrate AI learning opportunities into youth programs across the state. And 3, consistent with applicable law, establishing AI skills training and work-based learning as a grant priority in all employment and training administration, youth-focused discretionary grant programs. And C, within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary, through the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Employment and Training, and in collaboration with the Director of NSF, shall engage with relevant state and local workforce development boards, industry organizations, education and training providers, and employers to identify and promote high-quality AI skills, education, coursework, and certification across the country. Through such engagement, the Secretary of Labor shall 1, identify applicable funding opportunities to expand access to high-quality AI coursework and certifications. 2, set performance targets for youth participation in this or first. And 3, utilize philanthropic partnerships to the extent practical. D, within 120 days of the date of this order, in consultation with the Secretary of Education and the Director of the NSF, the Secretary of Labor shall support the creation of opportunities for high school students to take AI courses and certification programs by giving priority considerations in awarding grants as appropriate and consistent applicable to providers that commit to use funds to develop or expand AI courses in certification programs. The Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of Education shall encourage recipients to build partnerships with states and local school districts to encourage those entities to consider offering high school students dual enrollment opportunities to take courses to earn post-secondary credentials in industrial recognized AI credentials concurrent with high school education. E, within 120 days of this date of this order, all agencies that provide educational grants shall, all as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, consider AI as a priority in existing federal fellowship in scholarship for. And Section 9 is the general provision, which is what they state all the time. So I'm repeat what they always say. So this executive order was, I believe, 14277. All right. So we're going to go over this and take a break after going over it, and then let's get back to it. So let's go ahead and go over it. So executive order 14277, advancing artificial intelligence education for American youth. This is very important. Here is a breakdown of the pros and cons of the April 23rd, 2025 executive order titled Advancing Artificial Intelligence Education for American Youth in terms of 1, best interests of families, and 2, potential violations of the U.S. Constitution. All right, the pros. So when we look at the pros of this, of course, family and societies, education of workforce preparation, early prepares through 12 students for future jobs in AI-driven economy. That's true. Equity and opportunity promotes wide geographic adoption and diverse access to AI tools and competition. So right now, when we talk about them kids learning, oh man, they get grown, they're gonna be crazy how much they'll be able to use it. Educator training provides teacher training to integrate AI into classrooms, improving the quality of instruction. And by using AI, it does help a lot. I do happen to use that when it comes down to coming up with some plans. But at the same time, if you don't know anything about the subject matter, a lot of times that some of the information can be a mirage, or they go through hazes. Sometimes they don't know the answer. The AI bot don't know the answer. It spits out just anything. So that'll be that'll be the biggest thing you have to train. I forgot what I think it's called. I say it's mirage, but it's something else that they call it. It was like a haze, where it's like they're imagining their hallucination. That's what they call it. Where the AI bot will just be hallucinating, is in a sense where instead of it's actually telling you real information, it is basically piecing together information that might be real, might not be. They really don't care. It's trying to get you what you think you want to hear. So the economic opportunity that it will provide. It will provide workforce readiness. It will focus on dual enrollment apprenticeships and credentials, and AI improves job readiness. Well, we all know AI will take away jobs, but it will also provide jobs. So it's going to be a lot of people going to be suffering. Some people are going to be getting getting more money for less, and then after a while they're going to be getting less money. All right. So the next part will be apprenticeship integration, where it expands real-world learning for youth, including access to post-secondary AI certifications. So essentially, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be coming up with some kind of artificial technology to help farmers produce, and that something that that they're looking for as far as programming their bots or whatever they got going on. So what we got, the next thing will be public-private collaboration. So the first note will be industry involvement. Encourages partnerships with AI leaders, enabling access to cutting tools, and expertise. The next note will be resource leverage. Uses discretionary grants and funding mechanisms to end implementation with delay. All right. So outside of education, the use of AI can be great. It can be detrimental to our bottom line and our health. So let's talk about the lifelong learning. Adult education acknowledges the need to continue AI learning across all ages, not just K through 12. Focus on innovation. Positions the U.S. as global leader in AI by investing early in human capital development. What the cons? Yes, red is emphasized. All right, let's get back to it. I had to check something. All right, so let's talk about the cons. So data privacy and surveillance risk. Children data use. The executive order encourages use of AI tools in classrooms without robust discussion of student data privacy protection. So that is the biggest issue I have with it, because with this AI receiving this information, it just doesn't get rid of it. It then stores it, and then the person's going to have a track record, just like our Google searches. But with AI, it could incentivize them to give them wrong information on purpose. All right, the next one, commercial influence in classrooms. Public-private partnerships could lead to corporate surveillance, algorithmic profiling, or biased content pushed into schools. All right, so something that we all kind of know is that the fact that if you notice that a lot of those technological kind of sci-fi kind of shows, that it, like, one I use is Black Mirror, where the character essentially is living and all they're doing is working to make money by producing energy, or they had credits. And it's real crazy, just the kind of things that could happen when it comes to what can happen to us. And it's essentially the people had no privacy. And what I'm saying is, you can forget about the Black Mirror, but this essentially the thing is, the more they infringe, the less privacy we're going to have. So it's best for us not to have the bureaucratic, greedy people keep an eye on our children's lifestyles and behavior. You can control after a while. Let's go ahead and talk about these sociological and development impact. All right, so the sociological developmental impact on is early exposure without safeguards. Introducing AI too early may affect brain development, creativity, and social skills if not balanced with offline learning and human interaction. And then tech dependency, risk creating an over reliance on AI-driven educational tools that may not accommodate different learning styles or neurodiverse needs. I'm gonna have to say this: and don't have, like, I have at least 30 websites that I have created, and what I realized though is that a lot of those workshop websites really could have been turned into books. And the books can really help people more than a website a lot of times, because if the power goes out or if the person needs to learn it a different way, then those are ways that just having a website is not good enough. And I'm using that as an example because when we talk about AI, a lot of times just having that as a tool is not good enough. And the reason it's not good enough for multiple reasons. One, because it's manipulable. It's something that the person who's, like, information can be changed when it's all computerized. When you have it in a book, it's more solid, and then that's the reason why there were book burnings in the Nazi Germany. And the reason why burnings in Nazi Germany is because they took away the people's history, their knowledge. They wanted to dismantle it. They wanted to control their thinking, and that is essentially by them doing it with AI and trying to control. They're trying to stop any free thinkers. They want you to think the way they want you to think, and then if you don't think the way you don't think, they're going to try to manipulate you the early age, because your chat box and my chat box, we put the same thing in, but it's going to spit out something different. It just happens. And if you have a certain code in your chat box because you have a certain outlook, you're going to get a different response that might be all the way wrong. All right, so let's talk about the next note. Federal overreach in curriculum control. Centralized AI curriculum. The federal government guiding AI education may infringe on states' rights to control K through 12 curriculum, potentially violating the 10th Amendment. All right. So again, this is them trying to take too much control over our kids. They're basically violating the 10th Amendment. So the next one is homogenization, genization of education, encouraging nationwide program standards for apprenticeships could lead to one-size-fits-all approach that sidelines local educational priorities. So let's go ahead and talk about the legal and constitutional concerns. The first one we already talked about, the 10th Amendment, state sovereignty, potential violation. The federal government is setting standards and influencing curriculum design in areas traditionally reserved to states, possibly violating federalism principles. First Amendment will be the next one, freedom of thought, risk of indoctrination or bias. If AI tools or public-private content reflect political or corporate bias, there may be concerns about suppressing alternative viewpoints or critical thinking, especially in young minds. Remember, the young minds are very influenceable. You tell them too much of something, they're going to believe that something, versus even if they knew for one was something else. The next the amendment, privacy rights. Student surveillance. AI tools often collect vast amounts of data, raising concerns about reasonable searches or data collection on students and families. So whenever you use AI machine, a lot of times it's best not to put your social security in there. Try not to put that PII, your personal identifying information, in there. That's essentially what this is telling us. So let's talk about the last one. Protection, the 14th Amendment. So access inequity, if implementation depends on broadband access or private sector corporation, under-resourced communities might lack access, deepening the digital divide, violating the principle of equal protection. All right, go ahead and talk about. So hold on. All right, so as we said earlier, education, the category, the positives. It is future forward focused, teacher supported. In part of it is it teaches tech dependency and loss of local control. So by having the AI machine do its thing, it'll be more of a federal control than a state control or even a local control. So let's go ahead and talk about the privacy and rights. The access, the positive part is access to tech. The risk will be, the negatives will be the risk of surveillance, data abuse. The next category, legal and constitutional. A positive portion will be economic upliftment and federal investment. The negatives will be 10th, First, and Fourth Amendment concerns. The next note will be families, which will be the positive portion will be prepares kids for AI economy. The negatives will be may not be age appropriate, ignores consent voice of parents. So the final thought, while the executive orders intent to prepare American youth for an AI driven is laudable, families must remain vigilant about issues of privacy, autonomy, and local control, equity. Without robust guardrails, the order may undermine constitutional protections, expose children to check corporate, and leave the most vulnerable students behind. All right. So, my biggest thing about the AI bots, and anybody who's heard me talk we know that I've been talking about these AI bots since February, like the 14th, literally the first I started really protesting. I basically spoke to a group of probably about 75 to 100 people, and the biggest thing that I told them, my biggest worry is these AI bots taking over, and this is essentially them taking over our education, agriculture, and labor. So when we think about the many uses, the information that you get is also about the information the person gets from what you ask. So that is something that we need to be vigilant about as far as protecting ourselves. So let's go ahead and talk about the last case order that we're going to be focused on, which in my opinion is very important for all people who, let's say you don't have a kid. This is something I feel that is very important if you don't have it, as opposed to the other one that dealt with someone having it, more so, because in that one, if AI takes the labor, it's not going to be as bad because we're already being monitored. Every adult knows that when you're at work, you're monitored from your phone, from your conversation. We're always monitored. There's normally a camera somewhere that you don't know about, but there's a camera somewhere. So that being said, let's go ahead and let's have two. So the next executive order, 14288, strengthening and unleashing. Let me see. Yes, again, executive order 14288, strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. This executive order was written in April 28, 2025. Of course, he always says by the authority. Section 1, purpose and policy. Safe communities rely on the backbone of and heroism of a tough and well-equipped police force. My administration is steadfastly committed to empowering state and local law enforcement to firmly police dangerous criminal behavior and protect innocent citizens. When local leaders monetize law, enforcement and impose legal and political handcuffs that make aggressively enforcing the law impossible. Crime thrives and innocent citizens and small business owners suffer. My administration will therefore establish best practices at the state and local level for cities to unleash high impact local police forces, protect and defend law enforcement officers wrongfully wrongly accused and abused by state local officials, and urge resources to officers in need. My administration will work to ensure that law enforcement officers across America focus on ending crime, not pursuing harmful, illegal race and state equity policies. The result will be a law-abiding society in which tenacious law enforcement officers protect the innocent. Violations of law are not tolerated, and American communities are safely enjoyed by all their citizens again. All right. So section 2, legal defense of law enforcement officers. The Attorney General shall take all appropriate action to create a mechanism to provide legal resources in indemnification to law enforcement officers who unjustly incur expenses and liabilities for actions taken during the performance of their official duties and enforce the law. This mechanism shall include the use of private sector pro bono assistance in such law enforcement officers. Section 3. What's up? I'm recording. What's up? Section 3, empowering state and local law enforcement. A, the Attorney General and other appropriate heads of executive departments and agencies shall take all appropriate actions to maximize the use of federal resources. 2, 1, provide new best practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crimes. Let me say that again. Provide new best practices to state and local law enforcement to aggressively police communities against all crime. All right. 2, expand access and improve the quality of training available to state and local law enforcement. 3, increase pay and benefits for law enforcement officers. 4, and expand legal protection for law enforcement officers. 5, seek enhanced sentences for crimes against law enforcement officers. 6, no. Yeah, that'll be 6. Promote investment in the security and capacity of prisons. Ooh. And 7, increase the investment in collection, distribution, and uniformity of crime data across jurisdictions. B, within 60 days of this, Attorney General shall review all ongoing federal consent decrees, out of court agreements, and post-judgment order to which a state or local law enforcement agency or in modified, rescind, or move to conclude such measures that underlie, impede the performance of law enforcement functions. Section 4, using national security assets for law and order. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provisions of access military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement. B, within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in accordance with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national assets, training, non-lethal capacity capabilities, and personnel can most effectively utilize for crime. Section 5, holding state and local officials accountable. The Attorney General shall pursue all necessary legal remedies and enforcement to enforce the rights of Americans impacted by crime and shall prioritize persecution of any violations of federal criminal law to state and local jurisdictions whose officials are A, with willfully and unlawfully directed to obstruction of criminal law, including by directly and unlawfully prohibiting law enforcement officers from carrying out duties necessary for public safety in law enforcement. All right. And B, unlawfully engaged in discrimination or civil rights violation under the guise of DI in initiatives and restrict law enforcement activities or endanger citizens. Section 6, use of Homeland Security Task Force. The Attorney General of the Secretary of Homeland Security shall utilize the Homeland Security Task Forces, HSTFs, formed in accordance with Executive Order 14159 of January 2025, the American people against invasions to coordinate and advance the objectives of the order. So, and I already know that the general provisions is what they say all the time, so we're not going to go back over that. So let's go ahead and take a look at Executive 142AA in a deeper dive. All right, so strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect citizens. All right, so this is very important. Why is it considered very important, you ask? Urban communities. So when we talk about urban communities, an increased police presence and aggressive tactics, the order mandates aggressive policing and expanded use of military equipment, training, and national security assets in local jurisdictions. This is likely to escalate over policing in densely populated areas. It also increased tensions between law enforcement and Black, Latino, and income communities. The part it does be result in more frequent stops, arrests, and surveillance, especially for minor infractions. That means that it's going to become more like the Black Code, that it was kind of unwritten rules, but this time it's not going to be considered that. It's just going to be considered, we're just trying to be more, hey, we don't need as much proof to stop you. People from New York are used to that stop and frisk. That's something that people who are not from the city really are not familiar with, and they don't understand how bad it really can get. Erosion of local oversight. The order directs the DOJ to roll back or terminate federal consent decrees, which often regulate abusive police departments. This removes key accountability measures and also allows departments with a history of misconduct to act with reduced external scrutiny. So a lot of the guardrails that Biden implemented, that a lot of people don't realize, they implement a lot of guardrails when it comes down to a lot of the misconduct that police were doing. So a lot of that is being counteracted, and now this is I hope we don't become a police country. I mean, being a police is horrible enough, but being a police country, that's just, you know, I just hate the fact that pull you over and take 30 minutes of your life on a fishing trip. Suppression of equity-based policies. The executive order labels race and sex-based equity policies as harmful, targeting cities that have implemented police reforms to reduce discrimination. This could reverse progress on racial justice initiatives, and it also discourage urge leaders from implementing community-first, non-punitive safety programs. All right. Now, when we talk about the immigrants, how it affects the immigrants, the documented and undocumented, it increased risk of profiling and deportation triggers, expanded local law enforcement power backed by federal assets, could lead to more profiling of immigrants under the guise of crime prevention. The next thing, increased sharing of local data that with immigration, even for background offenses. And the last one, a chilling effect where immigrants avoid reporting crimes or cooperating with police out of fear. There's nothing wrong with saying you don't want to talk to them and saying that you're scared because of their power. A lot of times, it's not that I feel like a lot of times us citizens, it's not that we don't really want to deal with the police. We just scared of the fact that they can kill us and get away with it, and then we can't even bruise their arm without facing penalty. So the next note will be the next target will be targeting of sanctuary cities. Cities with policies limiting cooperation with federal immigration enforcement are indirectly threatened under the section that holds local officials accountable for obstructing law enforcement. This puts such cities and their immigrant populations under federal pressure, and it also may lead to funding cuts, legal retaliation, or even federal lawsuits. The next note will be general public and civil infractions, criminalization of minor infractions. The directive to aggressively police all crimes lacks nuance and could escalate consequences for petty infractions, loitering, jaywalking, fare evasion, and also lead to more frequent interactions with law enforcement, increasing public risk of harm, especially in marginalized neighborhoods. Again, if you are from New York and you're from the city, you know that stop and frisk was a huge thing. And this right here, it really only adds more danger to the marginalized neighborhoods because they're not going to stop the suburb like they would the city. The next thing we need to take note of is militarization of the civil law enforcement. Use of a national security and military asset for domestic law enforcement undermines civil norms. This may increase fear and anxiety among residents in targeted areas and as well blur the distinction between civilian policing and combat style enforcement, particularly during protests or public gatherings. So one thing that we have to take note is just because the police have it does not mean what happens is the police will eventually get rid of the weapons and it will then become part of the streets weapons. I mean, they're not going to destroy the weapon, they can make some money off of it. All right, so let's talk about the next note. Reduce trust in law enforcement. Communities may become increasingly reluctant to call for help or engage with police, particularly if officers are shielded from accountability and backed by federal immunity protections. All right, so we are to the end, and we're going to be talking about the key takeaways from this executive order 14288. So this executive order reframes community safety around force and federal control rather than reform, accountability, and community input. Likely leads to a harsher environment for marginalized urban residents, and as well as greater legal exposure for immigrants, as well as criminalization of everyday behavior and reduced local autonomy to tailor public safety approaches that reflect community values. All right, so that concludes the executive orders as well as the the case studies for the executive orders, one thing that I want us to really focus on before we split would be trying to figure out how we could adequately protest Musk. How can we protest Starlink? And I'm telling everyone that we have to be vigilant in this. It has to. And small ants again don't mean anything, but a bunch of ants all together means something. So again, No King's Day, June 14th, 2025. Make it a point to show up to one of those. Go ahead and show up to an indivisible protest, which the screen is showed. Hold on. So where the screen right here shows the indivisible protest, make it a point to check out the Resistance Lab June 1st. I believe that they do have recordings for the first and second meeting. I recommend you checking that out. I will be participating in that June 1st one. Also, Tesla Takedown, I'll be participating in that too this Saturday. If I was you, I'll go out there and really make sure that just because Elon Musk is not directly involved, I mean, he's not involved. And in a sense, once we figure out a way that we could really voice our concerns on a frequent basis on a Saturday to a place that means more, that's where we're going to be. So with that being said, I'm gonna bid y'all adieu. But before we go, let me see. Do I have the executive orders for next week? I do not have the executive orders that I will be looking up next week, but when I do have those executive orders, I'll make it a point. Hold on. Maybe I'm speaking too slow. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so I do have one executive order that I know for a fact we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over 14290, which ending taxpayer subsidization of biased media. So that's going to be the next one I'll be looking at. And the reason I'm looking at that is because I feel like he's attacking our media. And when you get rid of the media, then people like me really don't have a chance for the most part. And then people who are really like the social media people who are have big followings don't really have a chance, because if you have big following don't mean you have big money. And then the big corporations and big newscasting companies have the financial backing to defend against lawsuits that they're going against now. And then once they're gone, then people so I appreciate your time, and we're going to be meeting again Tuesday, same time. And this has been For Democracy, and this has been a pleasure to have your time. Again, email is, and I'm out. For Democracy.
I mean, look, y'all see that they throwing the trash out. They know what's about to happen. What's about to go? Not he ain't put his finger up. He ain't put his finger up. So then he goes outside. And let's see here. That's the end of the video. He walked his ass back in, and right there is when, and then he pushed the brother. He walked his ass back in, and right there is when, and then he pushed the brother, and that's when hashtag team whip that ass made an appearance.
But it is fair, but you're going to have to live with it.
We will either renegotiate it or we will break it. Because, every agreement has an end.
You can't just break the law.
Excuse me, every agreement has an end.
Pauline's Pizza, where we deliver happiness one slice at a time. What's your craving today? Hi, can you tell me about your menu?
Of course. We offer handmade pizzas with different crusts like thin crust, original, or deep dish. We also have fresh salads, pastas, and both bone-in and boneless wings. Would you like to hear about our specialty pies or any current special deals?
Do you have any gluten-free options?
Yes, we do. Our gluten-free crusts are super tasty, but there's a $3 upcharge. Would you like me to go over the options with you?
Great. What's the largest size pizza you offer?
Our largest size is the extra large pizza, perfect for feeding a crowd. Plus, if you upgrade to an extra large, you'll get a free 2-liter soda. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Can I get that gluten-free?
Absolutely. You can get the extra large with a gluten-free crust. What toppings would you like on your pizza?
Do you offer any vegan cheese options?
Yes, we do. Our vegan cheese is delicious and comes with a $3 upcharge. Would you like to add that to your gluten-free pizza?
Yeah.
Great choice. So we've got an extra large gluten-free pizza with vegan cheese. Any other toppings you'd like to add?
Well, one moment. What about hosting an event? Do you have any space for a birthday party?
Yes, we do host parties and offer catering. Let me get your email address so I can send over our catering plans. How many people are you planning to invite?
I left my sunglasses there last week. Can you check if they're still there?
I can definitely check for you. Can you describe the sunglasses for me?
They're black with silver frames.
Thanks for the details. I'll have someone check on that for you. Is there anything else I can help with today?
No, that's all for now. I'll call back later. Thanks.